So, welcome to another edition of the global podcast that is Life After Work. We're four 50-year-old something men, all sort of originally from the South Manchester area, often get together and talk about major issues such as buses and restaurants. And today, though, is a major issue. It's a global issue, and we're going to be talking about COP26, which isn't a crime-busting new series drama from the BBC, although that might be more interesting. Anyway, my name is Rod Maxwell. I host a radio show on local RadioAlty since I retired, now 5 years ago after a brain tumor. I'm just one of the members of this cast. I think we're up to episode 30-something, 34, I think. Over to the storyteller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yes, my name is Paul Davis, also aka as P.A. Davis, the author, who is currently residing in the beautiful island of Skiathos in Greece. I was a cop for the GMP for near on 30 years. So when Mr. Maxwell suggested talking about COP26, I was very excited because I thought it was going to be all about me, but no, it's going to be about global warming. It's a different sort of COP. So yes, it's going to be a very interesting. Looking forward to this particular discussion. I'll try and keep it as light as possible, but I'm very passionate about a few items. But that's me. Over to you guys.
Or shall I go next? Phil Harrison. I've been badging myself up to now as a retired insurance salesperson, and now sometime triathlete. But I think as my body fails me, I'm going to rebadge myself in Paul's fashion, really, not so much as a storyteller, but as trumpet player, given that I did my first paid gig recently. So that's the future. As my body gives out on me, I think that's the future. So yeah, trumpet player from now on.
Hi, and it's I'm Ash Sharma, a dentist of 20-something or many years. And I was Rod's dentist as well. So that's how we got to know one another. And yeah, and like everyone else, it's a bit of an emotive topic this afternoon we've got, because it's you only have to look on the news. You get all the demonstrators, you've seen everybody outside as well, and then how it's affecting the whole world. So will anything be done? How will it be done? How soon will it be done? Do they mean it? I mean, questions to be answered, aren't they, really?
It is. It is. So let's get into the food and drink of it. So I don't know how many of these there have been recently, but I mean, I guess if we're going to start with a positive spin, I guess at the very least, the very fact that they're getting these global leaders together for a conference on climate change, just the fact that they've now managed to get them together must be a good thing compared to, say, 10 years ago when they might have been having a global summit on nuclear weapons or something like that, you know? So, I guess at least we're starting to talk properly about this on the world stage. Anybody got any alternatives?
I'm going to immediately leap in with a bit of pessimism and negativity, given that I'll bring my optimism later, but just when you were setting the scene there, I was picturing it, and I pictured them, as was on the news, all flying in on their private jets. So I think, and there have been, as you said, Rod, there've been these before. So I'll start with a negative note of saying, what's going to make this one any different? The world leaders have flown in on their private jets, seemingly ignoring all the purpose of what they're convening in doing so. And so is it going to be different, or is, as you say, it's going to be more blah, blah, blah?
Well, I think we have a slight, it's a subtle hue of optimism. It's very, very subtle. And like Rod was saying, if you, for example, last year, when Trump was the president, he basically disavowed America from all the agreements. There were signatories to them. He basically took them off it. He said, we're not going to be involved with this. America's they're too well entrenched in their petrochemical businesses, aren't they? That's how a lot of the politicians in America get their money, isn't it? The petrodollar. So the slight optimism here is they're at the meeting. It is happening. They are talking. They are ticking things off, and it is being addressed. And that, I don't think, I didn't think this was going to happen last year with, where, you know, let's say Trump had won again, would we have been even here at all?
As you say, Ash, it's great that America is engaging.
Exactly, yeah.
But I did promise to be positive, didn't I? But I'm going to stamp on it again by saying I think it should be noted straight away that who are the two biggest influential players in the world and
China
and impacting on the climate? China and Russia. So they're not there anyway. So
well, are they not there? I thought
no, they're not there.
Ah.
So who cares what's agreed? It's not going to have the massive impact anyone has.
This is the thing, gentlemen. This is exactly the thing, right? It's COP26, so this is the 26th time they've sat down as world leaders and discussed it. The first one, according to my notes, was in Berlin in 1995. Phil, you're dead right in what you say about China and Russia. They don't give a monkey's toss about climate change or what they pump into the atmosphere. Were they or were they not? China in particular, some over 10 years ago, told that if they didn't get their emissions and the carbon footprint under some sort of manageable control, they would be heavily fined, blah, 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 blah. Did they listen? No. Have you seen China when they zoom in and it's got that smog across it? China don't give a monkey's toss, and Russia don't. And what really worries me about the whole, oh, let's get together and try and save a tree. What gets me about this whole leadership, Russia and China have set their own precedent because they're not engaging in this climate change. At first, nobody liked them. Oh, you're a terrible nation. Now no one gives a toss that they're not there. Oh, well, they'll just crack on anyway. But each and every nation, in my heart, I believe is there for two reasons. One, because they don't want to lose face in front of all the other nations. And two, because they want their particular nation to say, oh, look, they're interested in climate change. Let's give them some votes at the next election. It's all pulling the wool over people's eyes. Not one of those people, well, I'll say that back, maybe a couple of people, but the majority of people at that conference over this in Glasgow, over these next few days, is there for the free wine, the free lunch, to get votes and show the nation that, yeah, maybe they're showing an interest. Oh, look, Boris is nodding all the time. He's nodding because in his earpiece, there's some woman going, do you want chips with your McDonald's? And that's what he's nodding at. There is no interest by nations, and not all nations, about climate change. And I'll tell you for why, gentlemen. Here's me. I'm on a bit of a soapbox, so forgive me if I ramble on, but this is the way I want to put it. I can remember quite vividly when I was 7 years old, we had a rally round at our primary school we had a collection for Oxfam. We had do you remember the St. Joseph's collection boxes? I don't know if people remember those. They were a little white box you stuck together at school and people used to put money in and it used to go to charity. But there was this big drive when I was 7 or 8 years old at primary school to help people that haven't got any water, help people that are suffering in these extreme climates, this, that, and the other. Since then, we've had 1,000,001 charities, 1,000,001 people asking for money. We had Live Aid, we had Band Aid, we had bloody Lucas Aid, we had all these charities. This is 50 years of accumulating charity money to do good. How come they're still in the same position 50 years on? Where's the money gone and what they're doing? So when it comes to people professing that they're going to be interested in climate change, it's a load of bull, because they will have to spend some sort of money to get in line with bringing down the carbon footprint. It's money that countries and governments haven't got, and basically look at the thing that, well, I'm not going to be here when the world explodes, but I am here now, so I need to use that money for domestic issues, which is fine, that's great. But I just think it's all very cloak and dagger. Nothing's being done other than people's hard-earned money being taken and frittered away somewhere. That's just the way I see it. As the finally
I'm going to get to the much promised optimism, and maybe it's only because I think it's so dire that if you don't, I'm forcing myself to believe that there is a little bit more seriousness to it and intent this time around. And to go back to Rod's introduction, I do sense there is a slightly different tone to it. That even if it is that just off that indication that people have realised that talking about it does nothing, there is a little bit more intent about that talk. Yes, it's still just talk, and we'll ultimately judge them on their actions. But I am more optimistic about at least the people who are there meaning it a little bit more. I mean,
yeah, but Phil, I was optimistic 5 years ago when they started talking about various things that they were going to do. They don't do it. So yeah, give optimism, but follow through with your ideas and your good intentions.
No, absolutely. And when this week is over, this conference is over, I think we've not got to forget about it. I mean, I don't mind saying I voted Green at the last election because I looked at the main party's agendas and there wasn't enough in there. Let's face it, nothing else matters. However passionate we are about the NHS, about education, literally nothing else matters because the world's going to go up in smoke, literally. So, and I'm very much hoping it's got to start to prey on people's minds that that's the position.
But the big issue is we in the UK can do our bit, right? And we'll soon be introducing more electric vehicles and whatever. But until this is only as good as your slowest leg, and the slowest leg we've got in a world scale is China. It's India, it'll be Russia, it'll be these countries that are still relying on old, if you like, industrial might, and they're until they change, then we can do whatever we want to do, and it won't change the global situation.
I agree with you, Rod. I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's a real blow that those two nations aren't engaged in it, and I can sort of understand up to a point their position, but I still think there's room for proper leadership here. It's still the right thing to do, even if it is.
Well, this is it, Phil. I mean, that's what I was just going to say. You just stolen my thunder a little bit there. It's the right thing to do, because the thing is, just because other countries aren't doing it, the rest of them, we can still put systems in place, technologies in place, energy protocols in place to at least to help ourselves to do as much as we can, because we're still we still can do. I mean, if we carry on in the same way, like Phil was saying, we're just going to, the temperature at the end of the century will be 2.7 degrees higher than it is now. That's even if we stick to what we manage to stick to what we've got now, and that's anything above 1.5, we are absolutely screwed. Yeah. We are, like Phil was saying, there's no bones about this. This is absolutely dire. It's disastrous. You've got gigantic ice shelves falling off, permafrost melting, releasing the CO2. Water levels are rising. You've seen already. We saw the fires. Was it in Greece, wasn't it? The horrendous fires that they had. They had them in California. They got flooding in India again. The world's going to hell in a handcart now. And like Phil was saying, this has got to focus people's mind. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where Russia and China feel as though they've caught up. The political decision for China and Russia for doing this, and to an extent is India, is the fact that they're saying that, the Western democracies, Western Europe and America, have had the benefit of the 18th century industrial revolution, where they belched out this rubbish all the way through. So they've had a leg up. So they say, pull the ladder up, Jack, I'm all right. I've done it. Yeah. We've got to where we want. So when the minute they're trying to do it, they say, oh, right, cheers, that's okay. You're going to make it punitively expensive to do this. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's their thinking.
No, I agree. And that's the point I was saying, Manel. I sort of understand where they're coming from on it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's their thought process, rightly or wrongly. Hopefully, they'll get to see, because China and Russia aren't in, they're part of this world. It's going to affect them. Russia's a massive country. China's a massive country. Loads of, massive deserts there as well. This will affect them. Make no bones about it. It will absolutely affect them as well. And they may come back to cap in hand in a year or two down the line, begging, say, right, can we get involved in this? It's bound to happen.
The cynic might, let's throw it in as what the cynic might say. There isn't any global warming. There isn't any climate change.
Yeah, that's what Trump alluded to, wasn't it, for several years?
But I'll throw it over. Which one of you have actually stood next to a massive iceberg and see it collapse into the water? It's quite unusual. It's quite unusual that they measure these climate changes in these far-reach places that your average person is never going to go to. Never going to go to. Now, they wouldn't do it in the middle of Manchester because all people would be going, well, what's happening with the weather changing?
Well, Paul, to be fair, you don't need to actually do that because you've got satellite geothermal imaging of the whole of the planet, and they've done it over the whole of this century, and they've looked at the way it's been changing. And then you look at the amount of ice coverage in Arctic and Antarctica. It's patently obvious it's absolutely shrinking. If you look at the tropical rainforests in Brazil, it's disappearing.
Yeah, but that's because they're cutting it down, isn't it? But
all of this is related. Climate if you don't have the trees, that's going to affect the CO2. That's going to affect it being removed. That's going to affect the CO2 levels as well. It's all a virtuous cycle. We need to stop that. At the end of the day, I know what you're saying about the cynic in you going on about the evidence for this, but the evidence now is absolutely compelling. It's just,
You see what they've got the wrong spin on it. They're all about, let's save the earth. It's not about saving the earth. It's about saving mankind. Because the earth will be here a lot longer than mankind itself. Mankind will be extinct before the earth. Now we've got to remember this. The earth started out as this spinning molten ball of rock. Okay. Now Mother Nature in her wisdom got everything together and thought, you know what, I need to cool it down. I'm going to give it an ice age. I need to get rid of a few things that aren't contributing to this world. Cooled it down with an ice age. That ice age is still going on. We still have the permafrost. So I don't understand why scientists are saying, the ice is melting. Of course it's going to melt. We're still a big molten rock of bloody heat in the core of that's pushing out. So
is it, the difference though, is it not that that what we're doing on this earth is directly contributing to the faster heat up of the atmosphere? I mean, that's the issue.
I agree, Rod. And really, that it doesn't matter, Paul. Let's say it's a natural phenomenon that the planet is heating up, and it will cause us disastrous weather events and ultimately make us extinct. Even if that was a natural process, we'd still surely be wanting to try and do something about it if we could to impact that. Even if our efforts then were seen as unnatural, but we'd still be doing it in order to survive. So I'm not sure it's much different whether it's man-made or not. It's happening. We have seen the evidence of it.
The end result is going to be the same, isn't it? The end result is going to be pretty much, it's going to be ultimately like you said, Paul, is an extinction event. It will be an extinction event if you don't get this sorted out. And what I mean, is that dramatic? I mean, you just have a look at what's happening in Africa. You look at the droughts they were bad there anyway. They're infinitely worse now. I mean, you can just see all the weather patterns that are happening now, the ridiculous temperatures in the Middle East now, 50 odd degrees. They can't, people are dying every year in their summers now. It's just, this can't carry on really. And if it does carry on, then like you said, Paul, the world's going to carry on. The earth will carry on. It won't give a monkeys about us.
It's possible that our children's children maybe.
That's the sad thing about it. It's our grandkids and children, isn't it? It's our legacy that we're leaving.
And there's where I come round to the thing now. I've given you the cynical side of what some might say. My actual thoughts on the climate change, whether it's happening or not, we still need to build and construct this better earth for our future generations. Yes, man will become extinct, but it's going to be a long time. So we need to know that the future, you know what, gents, let's be honest here. None of us are going to see climate change to a degree where it's going to affect us. We might say, oh, look at the weather here, look at the weather there. We'll be long dead before it starts kicking in. But we need to, okay, this is what gets me. This isn't a new thing, okay? This is not a new thing. Like I say, as far as I can remember, when I was 50 years ago, they started on this campaign to change the way we are, not with recycling, but looking after with fossil fuels, etc., etc. And there was general talk about it. We're 50 years on, and what worries me is we have these conferences and the meetings, and they are doing very, very little about it. Oh, we must get this emission down. We must get this. What's that, Mr. Mush? Do you want to fly a rocket into space that's got like billions of tons of fuel that's just being put into the atmosphere? It's all about money. That's what it's about, and about votes. Yes, I don't want the Earth to become this place where humans cannot survive. But talking about it like we are, and even doing our bit, voting for a green, it's not going to happen when you've got the likes of Russia, China, and other countries saying, I don't give a toss.
Well, I think we're agreed on that they need to, if it's going to be successful, they need to be on board at some point. And
Russia will never get involved. And why? Because they are coal rich. They are coal rich. So,
I think Putin's a madman, so I agree with you. But even Putin won't live forever. And you just hope that with the growing body of evidence, that however politically evil, the next leader of Russia is not a madman, because it takes a madman to ensure their own destruction.
I think it could well just be a negotiating tactic, if I'm honest with you, which is I think what has to happen here is some sort of trade or value recognition for example, the Amazon. Right, you turn around and you say every acre of Amazon forest contributes to our ecology, our greenness as a world, and that is something that you in Brazil can trade off. Right, it's a bit like supplying us power. You start to buy as countries your own acreage of greenness, if you like, and you might have to offset it with another country, and that means that country actually gets some money for its natural ecology, if you like. So
I think there's some merit in that. What worries me is I'm hearing there almost blackmail that, you know, what's to stop any very small nation? It's tantamount saying, I've got a nuclear weapon, pay me, so I'm not going to set this off. It's sort of the same thing. I'm going to destroy my rainforest unless you pay me.
Well, it actually it's trade at the end of the day, Phil. Right? It's trade in the same way that we're buying gas from Russia at the moment, and that's
I see there's some merit in it, and it goes back to Ash's point. There is an economic reality to this with certain nations, and you're right, Rod. I think there should be some mechanism to provide support. To me, it's more about sharing global wealth. But yes, if we want to put it as a trade-off.
I think, you know, Paul's main point there was China and Russia not being at the negotiating table. But that is absolutely the same as locking a room in a burning house and hoping it's going to be fine. You are part of that house. When that house burns down, locking that door won't help. So it's going to dawn on them because they are part of this planet. Russia and China are on this earth, the last we all checked. They're there. So when global warming occurs and floods start happening in Russia and China starts getting droughts and the Yangtze River starts flooding its floodplains, and then cities and the people won't be able to stand for that. It will happen. They know this. I think there's an ulterior motive whereby they're trying to play catch up to a certain point, and then they're going to have to do it because they're in the same boat as we are. There is no difference. They're not that deluded that they think to themselves that somehow there's this protective zone umbrella that's not going to affect them.
I sort of agree with you.
They're not thinking like that, though, are they? They're not thinking like that. They're thinking, here's one, there are no consequences for us not joining that meeting. Absolutely no consequences.
There's consequences down the line, though. There's no consequences now. But what I'm saying is...
No. It needs to be consequences now. Not that the world's going to heat up and burn everybody.
But as you said, Paul, we can't threaten this, and it's the worst thing to do, threaten China. What are they going to do?
That's the thing. You're right. Exactly. They're too powerful, but they will come to the table because reality will dawn on them.
You've got to plead and use just the reason.
I actually think you need to come up with something whereby the countries who do engage on this actually get benefits here and now, not just banking benefits in the future, i.e. that it contributes to their economy, it contributes to their well-being, and therefore, you get to a point where you got a global eco sort of industrial commercial environment.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rod. And gosh, I never thought I'd be citing Arnold Schwarzenegger as a voice of authority on this. But did you see the interview with him? He spoke a load of sense, and he was pointing out that California is the greenest state in the US, and they've stolen real march and benefiting massively economically from their leadership in green and ecological industries. So it's there. It's maybe backwards thinking to say, oh, we're going to capitalize on what's left of fossil fuels. Actually, get forward thinking and start to capitalize on future technologies.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, and you could turn around and said, I never thought that the Grand Prix industry as such would ever engage in cars that were battery powered. Now they've started that, and that it's a footstep towards a step in the right direction, and that's partly because they know. I mean, I think you could take a very, very selfish point of view and say that from a UK point of view, we are not self-sufficient in the current sources of fuel and energy in this country. So we actually, and it has worried me for some time just how dependent we are on Russia, for example, and other powers for our one key natural resource, and it leaves us completely at risk. So I think that even if you put the environmental thing to just one side, we need to become more self-sufficient anyway, and this is a great opportunity, and it's something that's good for the environment. So we've got to be leading in it, regardless of the fact that it's a bit like a horse that's running with two legs stapled together, because that's what Russia and China are. They're such big influences, and they've got so much landmass. Not having them at the table is an issue, but that shouldn't stop us from cracking on. Absolutely not.
It shouldn't. But if we let's take it away from the global stage. I was listening to your interview with that chap yesterday on COP26.
Oh yes, the Green Party guy.
Yeah, and he made a very good point. So let's take it away from the global issue of global warming and recycling and bring it to a local level. There is absolutely no incentive for the great British public to recycle their recyclable stuff, apart from the fact that they give you a very small bin that if it's over full by a millimetre, they will not empty. Now he was going on about, let's not go down the recyclable route so much, let's go down the reusable routes, which I thought was a very, very sort of pertinent and clever thought, because we are in, and he said this as well, and I've thought this for a long, long time, we are in this throwaway age. We don't even worry about a microwave or a fridge or a washing machine or a TV breaking down. You know what, they're that cheap, I'll go and buy another one, and we take it to the tip. And we need something from governments that's going to reward the people. And no, it's not a blackmail thing. It's making people more responsible, but rewarding that responsibility. We need bin men that aren't going to pester and mither and shirk the responsibilities of taking this recyclable stuff away. So if you've got a TV, let's invest in somebody who repairs TVs. Now I know they're very cheap, and the parts might be. But let's, there's a fuse gone in that TV, so I'll get a brand new 50-incher. We are the enemy of our own existence. That's what we are, because when something goes wrong, we don't fix it, we throw it away and buy bigger after it. So
I agree with you.
And do you know what? Going hand in hand with that, Paul, and guess who is the major provider of all the things that we throw away and use? China, exactly. So basically China. So in a way, you are right. I do understand what you're saying about China almost smirking, saying, really, what are you going to do? Boycott us? Really?
Yeah,
because they provide everything we throw away. But so I totally understand what you're saying, because it is a lifestyle choice that we've got to do. It's not just about politicians doing something, the bigger, the governments as such. It's an individual choice as well, isn't it? Things that we do every day.
I think you both make very good points. And I would also put focus, and this is maybe a more effective way to do it and an easier way to do it in practice, is to put the onus on the manufacturers, because I think they've made a start on this about the recyclability of products. But I think they should go further. So if whoever supplies you with a washing machine, when it conks out and can't be repaired, and it would be better if things are more easily repaired to keep them going longer, but they take it back and they've got an obligation to take it back and use what they can again of it. They might want to do some of that because there might be useful materials in there for them, but whatever they can't use, then they've got to dispose of it in an ecological fashion. I think by putting it into the system at the offset, then I know you say, well, you might say that takes away all responsibility from the user. I think users, we in society can do enough in our own way, but this is an easy way to put a focus on the people who create the thing in the first place.
That's an absolute great idea. You could even do it. Let's take, there are other electrical shops, so let's take Currys, for instance. Currys could say, okay, you buy your washing machine from us, and if it breaks down and it's no longer usable, if you buy the next one from us, you will get a substantial discount and we will remove that washing machine for you free of charge. Yeah. It keeps the economy moving for the likes of Currys or whatever. And like you say, it gets rid. I mean, the amount of washing machines I've seen down back alleys in Great Britain, or just flung, fly tipping's a major issue. And they think that the magic bin fairies are going to come along at night and take up this washing machine. It's gone, and that's their responsibility gone because they've dumped it on the side of the street. So yes, companies that either manufacturers or the distributors, the retailers of these stuff, if they can turn around and say the big objects, your big objects, including like your 50-inch televisions, we will take them back because we will either fix them, we will either take the parts, like you say, that we need, or we will get rid of it responsibly.
Because most things that you end up throwing away because they can't be repaired, it's usually something like the bearings in a tumble dryer. I think the bearings went on mine once. The drum was perfect. There's no corrosion on it. Another was electrical switch, a circuit board. But the rest of it is perfect. So we're lobbing out and hopefully not putting in landfill a lot of parts of machines that are perfectly.
Well, I mean, we're doing this all the time. Exactly, mobile phones. I mean,
I was just going to say, Rod. Yeah, phones. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to change our phones every year, do we?
No, but the problem is it's become conditioned that's what happens, isn't it? And
we might get onto a different topic here, but they're forcing it on us because the recent hoo-ha that manufacturers now. It's about the operating systems. I know we're in a different area, so we shouldn't go down this rabbit hole, but just a quick point there is that Apple, I think, guarantee 5 years. Samsung have now put 4 years on it, that once your handset is 4 years old, they ain't going to support the software system for it anyway, so it won't be usable. The security updates and all.
The problem is it's not the support, is it? Because they're offering new features all the time. And it's those new features that you're buying, therefore they are indirectly causing you to want to do that.
They've recently shortened the timescale they're going to support because I think the public are maybe not so keen to replace for those new features, because I think everyone's getting a bit sick of how good can a camera be that I'm going to buy a new phone for that better a camera, how much better can the audio be?
It's the people like Steve Jobs that have done a great marketing job on you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're saying, I must have the iPhone 13. Not because it's that much different than the iPhone 12, but because it's 13. It's the new brand new
one more.
Now, just going and staying on mobile phones and bringing it slightly back to the recycling bit, there is a couple of companies, I think Carphone Warehouse are one of them, that actually will take your phone back off, or taking old phones that are in the bottom of drawers, they will do them all up, repair them, and send them over to third world countries so people get mobile phones. I think that's a great use of
it's that reusing that you were talking about.
Not recycling, the reusability of it all. And that's what, like this guy that was on Rod's show yesterday, that's the sort of stuff we should be looking at. Reusing stuff, fixing it, reusing it, because we recycle, as you say, it goes to landfill. we buy our next lot of landfill from an electrical shop that's come from China, and that goes to the same. And it's this cycle of buy it, crap, stick it in the ground, buy another one. And that's what we need to get away from.
Absolutely.
I think that another part of this is the global warming that's happened is transport as well. If you're looking at, for example, in the mornings when you're getting the commute, everyone's in their own little box, in their cars, driving to work, school, and this, that, and the other. We haven't got a transport infrastructure which is sustainable. The trams are good, but they're always busy. There's not enough carriages. They're not often enough. And if you look the same with the buses and the trains, they're better than they were. But again, this infrastructure needs to be improved, because as soon as you start improving that infrastructure, then the people's use of cars will go down as well. So,
I think that, in this last 18 months, we still need to make sure we've got legacy that comes out of the last 18 months. And part of it was we saw the benefits of people not traveling as much, not be so much pollution, etc. And if we can take some of that and build it into a Britain that at least plays its part, at the end of the day, if China, India, Russia, etc. don't want to take part, at least then we will have done our bit. And I actually believe fundamentally there's opportunities out there for industries and for people to do well commercially out of this, and be innovative around energy, power, reuse. I think that is a big thing. It's about reuse, not recycling. It is about reuse, and
even being selfish about it. If you look at the political capital that we can get out of this as well, because not for the first time, I'm going to be a bit jingoistic now, but not for the first time. Why shouldn't we? We were leaders once. We can be again. We were, 40, 50 years ago. I'm slightly going off track here. Even during the war and things like that, we weren't. How many times have we stood alone? We've done things because we've had to, and it was right to do it. And why not do that? And get that position back again in the world stage. We're British, and why sell it on the point that we will fight for the world? We will do that. If no one else is going to do it, we're here. We'll do it. We did it before 40, 50 years ago. No, everyone else joined in eventually, but we'll do it. We'll carry the fight across.
It is like one of those futuristic movies, isn't it? Where it's almost like the world is fighting for survival.
Yeah.
I've seen it. COP26.
Yeah, but it is, isn't it? It's like one of those things where you think world leaders coming together. It's down to them, and I'm sure our future generations might look at our generation and be very critical. But I think that would be wrong. I think we wanted to do the right thing. What you realize is that one nation or one region or four people on a podcast can't change the dial, but exactly. At least we're up for it. We're up for it.
Exactly. And that's where each nation should first of all get their own house in order. Be responsible for their nation, not what other countries are doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But look at their own countries, their own people, and go, are we doing what's right? And if not, let's change what our country is doing and do the right thing. And if people took that mentality, suddenly you've got everybody singing from the same hymn sheet.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm just about to crank up the heating in the house, go in my 3-liter car and do a spin around for a journey I don't really need to make. I'm going to turn on every light switch in the house. That's, I'm going to be a rebel.
Yeah.
What I'd like, I don't know how much time we've got left to introduce a new point, but I'd like a lot more information about it. I think I have a conscience, but I don't know if just using fewer plastic bags and trying to avoid plastic packaging on my oranges is enough. Is that like a drop in the? I'm sure it is a drop in the ocean, but okay, I'd like more information. What's the biggest thing I can do?
The thing is, as Tesco say, and there are other brands of supermarkets, every little helps.
Well, that's true.
But I'd like if everybody had the same mentality as you, I'm not going to buy a plastic bag. I'm going to get a paper bag, or I'm not going to buy a bag at all. Blah blah blah. If everybody had that same mentality, your little bit suddenly becomes a massive bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I just want to make sure I'm being as effective as possible on this.
And it's great. And I'm actually that. You know, I live in Greece, and I'm still of a mind where they've got bins here where you can put cardboard and grass. They've got it here, and I'm still of a mind where I will put my cardboard in the cardboard box, and I will put my bottles in the bottle box, and so forth and so forth. And it's great. And I have this split mind when I've done it. I feel great that I've done it, and then I suddenly go to negative, say, yeah, but why bother, because nobody else is doing it.
No, I agree. You've still got, that doesn't matter. You've still got to do, you retain some sort of moral high ground, don't you? At least you've got integrity.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you've got to do.
An issue, a real dilemma I'm going to have when it comes, obviously COVID has stopped it happening, but when I retired, one thing I really wanted to do and still do is travel extensively. And I'm going to have a real issue with this, so hopefully you can answer it for me, or someone will be able to answer it soon. That is there any way of flying but keeping it ecological? The answer is probably no, isn't it? Sorry?
Go by balloon.
I'm not sure I'd get very far.
The Hindenburg, or airships and things like that. I don't know how
I mean, airlines have started or made the promise that they're going to cut their carbon emissions, haven't they, by using different types of fuel and better technology to burn that fuel that they're using. So the thing is,
maybe they'll solve it.
There's always going to be planes, and they're under the microscope a lot more than you are from governments. And
that strikes me as one of the huge things, isn't it? It's
it is.
And to do with the technology, like I say, there's new fuels they're looking at. There's new technology. It's strange because I was reading about this the other day about the new technology, the fuels. There was something where the part of the fuel that they don't burn, and they've got some sort of converter that will pump it back into the fuel system, and they'll reburn it so it comes out as pure water or pure air. So they are looking at ways to make flights a lot more greener. You're never going to get rid of flights, but if they're doing their bit, that's
if in order to avoid accusations of hypocrisy, I do take this very seriously, and it might be that the first, until they do solve it and make it much better, the first trips I might make are maybe exploring Europe by train, or Europe in an electric camper van, for example, before hopefully they can solve it and make it green enough in a short enough timescale that I can benefit from it to go further afield, like Australia.
Well, this is the other thing, the other side of the coin, isn't it? You want to do all that and you want to be green, but there's no incentive as such for you. No, not incentive. There is incentive to save the planet. There's no reward or anything set up for you to do it. You can't go down the motorway in your little electric van knowing that the next service station has got electric for you to charge or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to upgrade. They want us to all go green and be electric and do this, that, but they need to look at upgrading and giving us the facilities.
Absolutely, we need to go ahead.
Exactly, yeah. Because
and the cost of the thing, electric cars, how much are they? They're so expensive, aren't they? I mean, if you want the Tesla, the basic Tesla, 60 grand or whatever it is, or other cars are available, as Paul would say. But you've got other manufacturers as well. It's the same thing. They're very prohibitively expensive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really Mr. Musk has said he's giving so many million or billion or whatever to the climate change, isn't it? The funding of the climate change. The guy who allegedly hasn't paid his taxes and is sending rockets into space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of a smoke screen, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely.
But there you go. But yeah, if they increased facilities for, I always said when I was working, because I used my car because I had shift work, it was different times throughout the day. But I always said, if there was a public transport system that could get me to work on time and get me home again, I would use it. I would leave the car. I'd probably sell the car, get it in the garage or sell it. But we need to focus on making those amenities much more reliable for the people who want to go green, who want to stay green.
Yeah.
That's what you.
And enjoyable to use as well. You don't want to get up in the morning, big cheek to jowl in a tram, someone coughing all over you or whatever. That's the thing. It's just not there yet. The infrastructure's not there. As you said, we need to get our own house in order first, don't we, as well?
But this goes back to my original thing. Gentlemen, I have known about what's going on in the planet and what we need to do for 50 years. Why has nothing been done to facilitate this future with your electric cars, with your trams that work, with your public transport?
I agree, we've been slow. I think there has been a lot of head in the sand, but to turn it to optimism, I think it is that there's a growing realization that, whoops, it is later than we think.
There's a political will now, isn't there? There wasn't.
I'll go back to that original point. It sort of feels like, we are in a slightly different place in taking it more seriously, certainly in this country, and hopefully in the Western world at the very least, and it can spread.
And do you not think the new generations of politicians who are, 18 to 20 as they get older, they will feel it much more now? It'll be much more important to them. It'll be part of their being, won't it? 50 years ago, they had other considerations, didn't they? But the youngsters now who are going into politics, I hope, may be more aware of it.
Did I not read somewhere that we have? Is it 9 years before we see this incredible rise in temperature unless we do something? I'm sure I read somewhere that we have 9 years to go. I think it was Oxfam was counting down. It's 9 years before we have to do these major changes. I could be wrong, but here's one. I just want to throw it in there, and I genuinely don't know why. I was reading what they're trying to get rid of. So the amount of CO2 that's going in the air, all the fossil fuels being burnt and all that. And they want to try and get rid of the eating of red meat. Why? I don't understand that.
Well, the issue there is the way that intensive farming has got, where you're storing a lot more methane and gases from the manure of
and cows literally belch it, and it's apparently hugely more damaging than carbon dioxide.
So that's but of course the intensification of farming is because people are expecting to pay less for a pint of milk, and therefore you have to produce it in a more efficient way, and that means that you bring the animals inside all the time, and so you've got to turn around and say, well, actually, how much are you going to pay for your greener environment? You're going to have to pay more. That's fundamentally it.
Which I don't mind, Rod, but to reintroduce a healthy element of cynicism, my biggest fear on this score is that, and who'll get the contracts for those greener technologies, who'll get the contracts for the vegan diet stuff? It'll be Michael Gove's friends, it'll be Boris Johnson's aunt, it'll be you watch.
It will be jobs for the boys. It will be. But you know what? I don't mind it being jobs for the boys if the boys do it properly. If they do it properly and do it effectively and do it in a responsible attitude. I don't care who is responsible for these new contracts and everything, so long as they do it. And I would like them to be given to be under public scrutiny, so that in a set number of years, if they haven't delivered on what they say, they get closed down and somebody else has a go. That's how it should be.
On that note, I hope the last 50 minutes of chat hasn't been too much blah blah blah. I think we've talked a lot of sense.
I'm about to send this podcast off to the COP26 and say, look, you don't need 5 days of chatting. Just listen to this.
Yeah, we've sorted it for you now.
Yeah, exactly. To Greta Thunberg, keep on going out there, okay? It's the world leaders, try your best, And this has been the 4 leaders of the podcast that is Life After Work, taking an eco view of life, COP26 special edition. We'll be back next week talking about things like diesel cars and turbocharging everything. That's what we're up to next week. Anyway, take care. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.